Dela is the author of the book 18 Years.
Gosh, sounds like a prison sentence, doesn't it? She did 18 years. Yes.
From I do to what did I do? Did you ever approach him about feeling like you were suffering in the marriage?
I didn't. Really, and this is going to be very hard for some people to take, but when I look back now, I didn't actually love him.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't. And so I never once told him that I loved him.
So there was never an I love you ever. Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper and I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. Today I'm going to have a really deep conversation with a friend of mine. She is a breakup recovery coach and she's also a content creator. I'm excited to have her here finally so that we can get into what she's doing now. Some of you may have been following her for a while. More to Dela, formerly known as Natural Ghana Girl, for those of you who've been following her journey. So I'm excited to have her here today. Dela, thank you so much for taking time out today.
That's okay. I've been looking forward to doing this,
I know, it's been quite a while.
Yes, it has.
It's been quite a while. I mean, I've already been following you for a long time, and then we met here in Ghana, became friends, and I've seen your journey evolve over the years.
Yes.
And you went from being a content creator that focused more on living in Ghana, building in Ghana, sharing your vlogs.
Yes.
And then you dropped the bombshell about your marriage.
Yeah.
Now, Dela is the author of the book 18 Years.
Gosh, sounds like a prison sentence, doesn't it? She did 18 years.
18 years.
Yes.
From I do to what did I do?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if there's people watching who actually have also experienced this as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to first backtrack because there's some people watching who don't know your journey.
Yeah.
Is first, where did you come from and what brought you to Ghana?
Okay. So I was born and raised in the UK, but my parents are both Ghanaian. And back in 2014, when I was married, my partner wanted to move back to Ghana. Like he'd been saying it for so long, oh, let's go to Ghana. And I was like, nope. Because I'd had so much experience of Ghana already in the past because my parents, this was the only holiday destination that we ever knew.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, all my friends were going to I'm going to Spain, I'm going to America, ours was Ghana every year without fail. So I knew so much about Ghana. And so I was like, that's not where I would want to live. And Ghana was still very much developing. And so I was like, no. And then I think I just got tired of living in the UK where everything just every day feels the same. And I just felt like I was in this Groundhog Day. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just go, And that's kind of how the journey kicked off, really.
Okay. So what year was it when you actually made the move?
2014.
And so when you came in 2014, what was it like?
No Uber, no Bolt. Oh my gosh, having to walk to the 10 minutes to the main roads in the scorching sun to get a taxi to get to where we need to get to, having light off. So light off was, it was 24 hours off and 12 hours on. So trying to navigate coming from the West to these things, I was like, what is this? What's happening here? Gas has run out, water is run out. And then I've got this houseboy and he's catching water while it rains. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's so far, even though I'd been to Ghana before, it was always holiday. So I'd not seen this side of it. And so I was like, whoa, this is a lot, But, it's what we wanted to do. But even though there was those things that were difficult about Ghana, there were some beautiful things about Ghana too, which for me just made it easy for us to be able to stay, and not run back.
Right. And so you came with your kids.
Yeah.
How many kids did you have at that time?
3.
And then you gave birth to one here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women who come to Ghana and when they're pregnant, they go back to give birth. What made you decide to stay?
Do you know, I really didn't want to go back because I knew if I had taken the journey to go back, I would have had to be there for several months.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do that because I went back to the UK for 3 weeks one time and I was like, why is this 3 weeks the longest 3 weeks of my life? And I was like, if I have a baby, I'm going to be here for maybe 4 months.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have a breakdown. I can't do it. It just didn't feel the same anymore. Like the UK had almost come out of my system. And so I just needed to be in Ghana. Even when I went on holiday, I was just like, I need to get back to Ghana. I've got things I need to do. No, I just can't do it. So I decided to give birth.
And so 4 kids, and your husband, and you were doing content about living in Ghana and about building your home.
Yes.
What was the turning point for you that made you realize that you weren't happy anymore?
In my marriage?
Yeah, or in your marriage in Ghana, was there a period that you felt like, did you feel like it was Ghana that was making the marriage have challenges, or do you think the marriage itself had challenges already?
Oh, the marriage itself definitely had challenges. I think one of the things about living in the UK is, or anywhere abroad in the West, is that everything is fast paced. You don't have time to sit down with your own thoughts and think, am I happy? You just get on with it. Every day you just rolls into another one and you just keep going on like that. But then when we moved to Ghana, I had time to think and I was like, this is too much. I'm not happy. And I'm trying to be happy because everything about society tells you that you're married, make it work. You have children, make it work. And so there was that pressure. And I think, especially being in the Ghanaian culture, you don't just get up and walk away from a marriage. What are you talking about? So even though I was having those conversations internally with myself, I was battling because I was like, I'm going to be almost hated. That's how it felt, you know? And so I struggled for a long time with it. But the longer that I let this thing kind of go on, the more miserable I was, and it was affecting me in lots of different ways. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't. I have to save myself.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 24.
Do you think you were really ready at 24?
Absolutely not.
So what made the two of you get married at a young age?
So we were actually in church. And I feel like when it comes to getting married, church has a huge influence on these things. They definitely... You're not forced, but you're strongly encouraged to find a partner. That is, I've seen a lot of marriages that happened in church fall apart years down the line as people start to find out a bit more about themselves. And I think that's kind of what happened, you know. They don't want you to be out there fornicating or, you know, having all these failed relationships, which I can understand. But it still doesn't change the fact that if your relationship is not built on a very strong foundation, it's going to shatter somewhere along the line anyway, especially as you get to know yourself. And so that's predominantly what happened. 24, I hadn't had enough experiences yet. I didn't know myself at all. It was definitely not the right move. Yeah.
How old were you when you had your first child?
I was 29.
So you must have felt a little bit overwhelmed by then, because did you know when you had your first child? Because I feel like sometimes in hindsight, people start to look back at things and be like, yeah, that was the moment. I should have done this. I should have done that. After you had your first child, were you still happy in the marriage, or do you think you realized something was breaking?
I didn't realize anything was breaking. I think I was happy, but I've always been someone who wanted children. So I was just so happy to be a mother. And I think, honestly speaking, if I really think about it right now, I think that's what carried me through as long as I did. Because I was like, oh, I've got my children. This is great. From the outside, it looks wonderful. You know, everybody's happy because you're conforming. And so it feels okay. You kind of push everything to the back. And as I said before, when you're in the UK, you're kind of distracted by lots of things. And so you don't think about it. But then as time goes on, you start to notice that things are not okay, you know, and that's very much what happened to me. So I enjoyed my years of having children and giving birth, but my marriage was definitely suffering, definitely.
Did you ever approach him about feeling like you were suffering in the marriage?
I didn't. Because,
why do you think?
Because I didn't admit to myself. It took me a long time to be able to admit that and even say it openly. Really, and this is going to be very hard for some people to take, but when I look back now, I didn't actually love him.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't. I know. I know. And I struggle to say that out in public because I feel like people are going to be like, oh, how could you have done that? But, you know, the reason that I come out and I say it is because I really want to help other people that feel that same bondage that I felt and to be able to break that. Like, it's not unusual. There are many people who are in marriages, relationships where they don't love their partners. They're just in it because this is the circumstance that they find themselves in. And so it was pretty much that for me. And so I never once told him that I loved him. And I thought, I know.
So there was never an I love you ever. So how did you arrive at agreeing to get married?
Because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. And I was very young. And although some people say 24 is not young, mentally, I was very immature. So on the outside, I looked like I had everything together because I was living by myself. I had a job. Had my own car. So on the outside, I was matured, but the inside, mentally, no, I hadn't had enough life experience. So when someone said, oh, you'd be a great match, and everybody was saying, you'd be a great match, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will grow to love him. And then when that didn't happen, I thought maybe I'm not just an affectionate person.
Okay. Does he know this? Like when you guys went through the divorce, did he find out that you never really loved him?
I don't think so, unless he's read my book.
Okay.
Because I put it in the book. My book is very honest, and I really wanted to be honest in it, as I said, to like help other people. But yeah, I never really said that to him outright. But yeah, that's the truth.
There could be people out there watching, and I find particularly when we talk about relationships, there seems to end up being a divide. Like you'll have the women on the women's side, the men on the men's side. There might be some men watching saying, well, what kind of person were you to even be with this guy? You didn't even love him. How could you string him along that way? What would you say to somebody who may put that on you?
It wasn't a thing. It wasn't about stringing somebody along. I never knew that that's what I was feeling. So it wasn't until later on. In fact, I wouldn't have admitted that to myself until after we had decided to separate. That's when I really realized that I just didn't love this guy. Because honestly, I would see couples and I'd see them in loving situations, giving each other kisses and hugs. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, And so for me, I battled with, I put the onus on me and thought to myself, you're just not an affectionate person. You just don't know how to love like that. Maybe it was your upbringing or you just haven't been exposed to it enough. So I never processed it as in, it's because you don't love him. It was more so on me. So I never looked at it that way, So I wasn't trying to string him along. It's just I'd never experienced love. I didn't know that I could love in that way.
Right. Did he ever question you on why you never told him you loved him while you were in the relationship?
I don't think so. But I think it's something that he'd never heard from me, and he just got used to not hearing it from me. And so it was just never a thing.
Okay.
I was never affectionate with him. So I guess I just came across as a person who's not affectionate. So you're not going to hear that from me.
Okay. Was he also born and raised in the UK?
No, he was born in Ghana and left here when he was 6.
Okay.
And went to the UK.
The reason I asked that question is because what I've noticed about relationships in Ghana is the people generally are not that affectionate in public. It might be behind closed doors, but you don't see people walking around. I'm not saying nobody does, but you don't see in high numbers the way you would in the UK or Canada, US. You'll see a boyfriend and a girlfriend walking down the street, holding hands, hugging and kissing, making out in the corner. It's so common to see that in Western and European society. But here in Ghana, it's not very often you see. You could see a guy and a girl having dinner and they never even hold hands until they're behind closed doors. So I asked that because I was wondering if maybe he grew up in that environment here and then moving to the UK, he just didn't see it as a big deal. Right. That's why I asked that question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but who was the one that decided that you wanted to separate? Did you bring it up or he brought it up?
I did.
And how did he respond when you did?
I think he was shocked at first, but honestly, the way the breakup happened, it wasn't so I'd been thinking about it for probably about 2 years prior to that. I just didn't know how I was going to do it.
Women usually are thinking a long time before.
Yeah, before it happens, exactly. So I think I can say that, honestly speaking, this is going to sound terrible and I can't think of a better phrase to use, but an opportunity presented itself. And that's not the right word to use, but I can't think of the way to say it. So there were some things that I found out later on and I was like, you know what, this is a way out. I can use this now as a reason as to why I want to leave this marriage, because I didn't know how to communicate to other people that I need to get out of this. This is literally killing me inside. And I didn't know how to break free. So when this thing happened, I was like, I'm going to run with this now. Like, I feel ready to leave.
What was the thing that happened?
You're just going to ask me. So I found out that he was cheating on me.
Infidelity.
Yeah. Not just once, multiple.
And this is something that a lot of women have dealt with. I mean, men also have had women cheat on them. But did he take responsibility for the fact that he did that?
Not particularly. Not particularly, no. He basically said to me that, I drove him to it.
So he shifted it onto you.
Yes.
Which is sometimes what people do when they're in those situations. So once you separated, how did the kids handle it? If you want to talk about it.
Obviously, it was a huge shock to them. They were initially very upset, but I mean, I don't really want to speak for them too much because.
That's why I said if you want to talk about it, because I know it can be sensitive with kids.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a whole other story. But yeah, they were initially upset, but then afterwards, I think they realized, especially as they've seen me now, that I'm so much more happier. Like things just feel brighter. The house feels lighter. I say to people, I have traumas, and I wasn't alone in my traumas, because it wasn't just a straight thing of me being unhappy. There was a lot more to it, which I've put in the book. So it wasn't just a straight thing of I'm not happy, this is how I feel, I'm not happy, and now there's this infidelity issue, so I'm going to leave. There was a lot more to it.
So once you separated, you working towards divorce. Now you are fully divorced, right?
I'm still going through divorce. It's
it's a lengthy process.
Very, very slow process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been about 2 years now.
It can take I hear about it taking years for some people.
I know. And that's the thing that really, really does hurt me, because you can get married in one day and it can take you years to get divorced. I'm like, this is crazy. Makes no sense.
And especially with, if there's assets and those kinds of things, also complicates a lot of the matters when it comes to, and then also depends on how agreeable each person is, because I've known people who've gone through divorce, and one person would tell me how, her lawyer has sent the documents to her spouse, and then he doesn't sign it, he delays, and then him not signing it, him not delaying it, is just causing further delay to the outcome, or he'll say, oh, this one thing, and then now they got to go back and have another meeting. And so she talked about how long it took for her as well. Yeah, so I understand.
Yep, there's definitely elements of that too.
Yeah. What led you to write the book?
Okay, so initially it wasn't supposed to be a book. It was me finding a way to cope with the things I was feeling. So I think people have to understand that when you go through a breakup, whether you are the person who broke it off or not, there is still pain that you experience. And I think that's something that people don't understand. So people said to me, but you're the one who broke it up, so why are you upset? Because I still have to go through this period of grief. And I needed to know how to process that. And I'm quite a creative person, and so I needed an outlet. So I like to read and I like to write. It's one of my things that I'd given up when I got married. And so I went back to writing. And so I decided to start putting it on paper, almost like a journal. And then I was like, as I would read back some of the things, I was like, you know what, this would really help someone else. And then it eventually turned into a book. And I was like, so it became my passion to really help other people, because as I put my story out there, I was getting emails from people. Long emails from people. So they were like, I've been in a marriage for 20 years and I don't know how to get out. I'm watching your journey. I'm so inspired by you. Like, you're helping me. I didn't know other people in the same position as me. And so I was almost becoming this voice for people. And it would touch me. And although I was going through my own grief, I kind of took pleasure in the fact, or it was helping me, knowing that I was helping other people. And so it became easy for me to then write the book, and I really focused and wanted to put the book out there. So it was therapy for me, but I was also helping other people at the same time.
Yeah, I've heard, I was following your journey, and in your stories, I would see when you would post when people are responding to some of the things you were saying. And it just really, I'm sure, definitely encouraged you to just keep going.
Absolutely.
What were some of the negative things that you experienced from sharing your story?
Oh my gosh, it was such a difficult time in my life. It was so hard. People don't understand that when you are grieving a relationship like that, everything that you thought your life was going to be is no longer anymore. They come down on you on top. They feel like if they don't see you in tears all the time, then you're not suffering. So they just piled more and more on top of me. Oh, this is your fault, I can tell. Now you're outside, you're having fun. I can see that, you're with all your friends now are single. They're the ones that have led you to this. You've hurt him. You let him build this house for you and then you kicked him out. I bet you've got another boyfriend. I've been accused of being gay. I've been accused of, yeah, I know. I've been accused of so many things. Like, it has been crazy. I've been accused of neglecting my children, being completely so many things. And people don't realize that you're talking to a real person. I'm not just on the TV. I'm not an AI. I have feelings. And when you say things to me when I'm already down, it puts me down more. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have a camera on me every time I cry. So you're not seeing that. So you're seeing moments of me where I'm happy. But did you see me 2 minutes ago?
Yeah.
I've gone to the supermarket and literally I sat in the car for a while and I've cried my eyes out before I go into the shop and do some shopping, just so I can be okay in case I meet anybody, because people know who I am. I go outside, people know who I am. And so, I'd put a cap on and have it really low so hopefully people won't see me, but people were seeing me. And I'm still dealing with that. And so there was a lot of that following me. And so then, you get a notification on your phone and so said this, and you're like, it just brings you back to that space that every time I try to climb out, I'll be brought back to that space, Mm-hmm. But I did get a lot of nice comments as well. But, the hurtful ones are the ones you tend to focus on a lot more,
mm-hmm.
Because you're like, especially when we want to fight back and say, it's not like that. You're misunderstanding the situation, but you can't tell your story,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't argue with every single person that says something negative about you.
Yeah.
And when you're in the social media space, you have to be really, really strong. You have to grow a very, very thick skin. And it definitely helped me do that.
It's true. Because some of these negative things people say,
it really does affect you. People will tell me, oh, no one's going to want you at your age with 4 children. And that might just be a comment to you. But there was a time when I let that get inside me. And so I was actually beginning to make peace with the fact that maybe I will never find anybody. And maybe I'm destined to be this single person with 4 kids and I'm going to be alone. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it is.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, they don't realize that what they've said could actually change the trajectory of someone's life, because somebody who really internalizes it could end up just being like, okay, this is what it is.
Exactly. It's very damaging. And I'm not a celebrity by any means, but it definitely made me think of all these celebrities out there who go through these things. Mine is on a tiny scale and I know how it felt. Like, to have the world judge you for something that they don't understand. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that means depression, your mental health. God forbid it leads you to suicide, because it's quite possible for those things to happen. And I just think that before you judge someone, really put yourself in the person's position. Is this something that they need to hear? Probably whatever you've said, the person's already thought it. You don't need to make such a horrible comment, mm-hmm. because the person's probably already judged themselves in that way, It's just not needed. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything.
Exactly. Well, what I've noticed that you did was some of these negative comments that you got, sometimes you would select one and you would put it in your stories and then you would make a comment in regards to that particular thing.
Yeah.
Did you find that to be therapeutic for you and to help others?
Absolutely. I wanted people to see that this wasn't over for me. So although people saw that, okay, you've written the book now and, you seem to be getting better, there's still comments coming at me. Yeah. And so sometimes there are days when I'm not strong, because not every day I'm strong. And so when those comments would come, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use it. And this is how I want to respond. And so I would put it out there. And I wanted other people to see it as well, to see that my journey is still going on. It hasn't stopped. This is still what I'm battling. And I want people to be able to see that, okay, she's going through this. Okay, well, my situation maybe isn't as bad. It helps people put things into perspective, because not everything is rosy. I think often when it comes to social media, we like to paint a picture of everything is fine, everything is perfect, I have this perfect life. I don't. We all go through trials and tribulations, but often we don't put the down moments on social media, and we deceive people when we do that. And I just want to be very real and very relatable, so I like to share these things.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you put the difficult ones online, the same people who will say that you're being too fake or you're always happy, when you show the authenticity, then they're like angry, like, why are you showing this to us? Why are you telling us this? And it's like, people are never happy.
Yes, exactly. Why do you have to cry on camera? You know, it's ridiculous. You literally can't win. And I think one thing I realized is that you have to do what feels right to you, because you cannot win everybody. Just be genuine to who you are as a person. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me get to this point. I'm just like, I can't satisfy everybody. So I'm going to be me. If you like me, fine. If you don't like me, fine. I have no control over that.
Yeah.
And it honestly, it freed me mentally. It really did. Because it's too much.
It is 2 years now since the separation, or 3?
Yeah, it happened March of 2022.
Oh, wow. I want to know, did things amplify? I mean, I guess not really, because I was thinking about how there's all these stories about during the pandemic, during 2020 to 2022, people talked about, realizing life and realizing decisions that they wanted to make. But I don't know that would have had a great effect on you, because in Ghana, we didn't really have a long lockdown period, because people got stuck at home.
Yeah.
And I've heard about divorces happening during COVID because people were on lockdown.
Yeah.
But we didn't really have a lockdown here.
We didn't.
The way they did. It was like 3 weeks.
Exactly. No, we didn't. But I think during that time, I was home a lot. And I did feel the pressure of it. But I had got to a point where I'd become numb to so many things that often we didn't really argue a lot, because I just let it go. That's what I just found myself just letting things go. I'm not going to argue about it. Okay. A lot of it was okay. Women get to that point where I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you anymore. And you just accept things as they are. And so there was a lot of that happened. And so I just was quiet.
And did the kids notice?
I don't think they would have noticed, because I had probably been like that for a long time.
Okay.
Okay.
You talked about them seeing how happy you are now. How old are they?
Okay, so I have 4, 16, 14, 12, and 7.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know. Time flies. I'm like, they're getting older. I'm getting older too. Like,
yeah, they're keeping you busy. So right now, with what you're doing, I know that sometimes people want to talk to their kids before they venture into, different careers, because yours is very public, what you've been doing. Did you talk to especially the older ones, about the fact that you did this transition into going more into relationships and talking about relationships and coaching people? How do they feel about that?
I mean, they're teenagers, so they're just like, ew, mom. They don't want to hear about it. They don't. Honestly, I think because I've always been quite in the social media space, they're almost used to it. They're accustomed to it. So they're like, oh, she's just doing another thing, So that was never really a problem. And I have tried my best to not be too personal when I say certain things.
Okay. Not get into too much details.
Yes, I've kind of tried that. So, because honestly speaking, I want my children to come to their own conclusions. I don't want to steer them in any particular direction. I just believe that children, as they get older, they come to their own conclusions. They see things for themselves. I don't have to do anything. And so I never really wanted to put an influence on them. So I never really talked about that side of things with them, Just trying to be very careful.
So now you have ventured into being this breakup recovery coach. How did you come to the decision that this is what I want to do?
I'm a great believer in nothing happens for nothing. So this whole thing that I went through, it's almost like I built this tribe of people that really wanted to support me and really were looking at me for inspiration. That's not what I ever set out to do. I'm just like, this is my world, this is my bubble, this is what I'm going through. And I was just sharing it. But now it's almost like people were looking to me for answers in certain things, because I was able to be so open. So things that they couldn't say, I was saying. And so it was almost a natural progression. And I realized that I actually really enjoy helping people in this way. And so it just made sense to kind of go that way. So I always wanted to talk about healthy relationships as well, because I feel like that was the education that I needed for this thing to not have happened. And I never had it, because I never had an older sister, an older brother. My parents didn't really interject like that. And so I was left to my own devices. And I was like, if I had heard some of the messages which I'm now giving, I wouldn't have gone down that path. I would have taken time. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to do. I just felt like there was a need for real proper education. And one of the things I don't like about social media right now when it comes to the relationship space is this battle of men against women, him against her. I just feel like it's so toxic and so negative that, it's become so petty that, we have silly little things like, if he calls you, don't answer yet because you seem too desperate.
Yeah.
Don't do this because, there are these silly little rules. I'm like, how did this happen? How did we get here? It's ridiculous to me, like grow up. If you like someone, let the person know that you like them.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk more about these things. And so I went into that space where I'm like, hey, right, this is the person, I like them. I think they like me too. And I wanted to be open about it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I did it. My focus is more on the breakup side. Like when it comes to like one-on-ones, I want to focus more on the breakup recovery stuff, because I feel like once you go for a breakup, it's so traumatic that you need help coming out of that space and putting your life back together. But before you get to the breakup stage, let's talk about how to have a healthy relationship. How do you know that you're picking the right person for you? How do you get to know yourself enough to know that this is what I need from a relationship? Because I didn't know what I needed from a relationship. I just used other people's examples and were like, okay, well, he seems like a good guy, so let me go for it. But I didn't know what did I need? What did Dela need before this relationship will work? No one told me to think about that. I never had a checklist of, okay, I need him to be able to do this or that or that. I didn't have any of that. I didn't know what to look for. I just went into this thing. And so for me, it's about building a healthy relationship. And what does that look like for you? Because for everybody, it's going to be different.
It's interesting that you brought up all of those things that we see where they say, don't do this, don't do that. Because that's been a long-standing thing, even before social media. Because I remember magazines, you would see magazines like Cosmopolitan will have top 10 ways to get the guy to do this, 5 ways to do, and it's like all these lists that they give. And then you literally have women sitting there looking through the magazine like, oh, they said I shouldn't do this. I should say that. I should do this. And, and right now I saw somebody who's like a relationship coach on YouTube. And he was like saying that good morning texts. He was saying something about good morning texts are not good. And it makes him seem desperate and just don't respond to that good morning text. And in the comments, one person was like, so what am I supposed to do? If a guy sends me a good morning, am I not supposed to say good morning back to him? It's like, it's just all this game playing. If he sends you good morning, it means he's thinking about you in the morning. So just say good morning back.
They're making relationships so overcomplicated. And really, relationships don't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
We're putting in all these extra things that just don't need to be there. Like, talk to a person. This is what I want. What do you want? Let's see if we can match. And it's as simple as that, because we're wasting so much time on pretending to not like someone because we want the chase.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to chasing someone, that is very much about how we feel about ourselves. We want to feel special, so we want the guy to chase us. We don't want him to catch us yet because we're enjoying the chase. We're enjoying seeing this guy sweat. But, for some people, they don't mind doing the chase because they just want to sleep with you. And, the more you give them the chase, they love it just because of that. Once they've got you, now what happens? Do you want to go through that? Do you want to spend 6 months like letting someone chase you only to find out that that's not really what they wanted? Or do you want to get to it and let's not waste our time? What do you want? This is what I want. And let's talk about it like adults.
That's the thing. I think that a lot of people deceive each other. A lot of men, and some women, they just want to sleep with the person, like you said. And if you're just honest and upfront, there are some people who are willing to be like, that's all they want as well. But if you are honest and the person said, well, that's not what I want, then they can move on to someone else who that's the same thing they want. Instead of wasting each other's time. We have so many people who waste each other's time. I've had my time wasted a number of times in my life. And it's very frustrating.
Yes.
It really is. And I'm being more discerning now, being single and out there. And there was a guy who I had some interest in, and he told me he only likes to WhatsApp. Because I had called and he answered the phone and he was like, oh, why are you calling? And I'm like, oh, because I like phone calls. I think it's important in a relationship, or if you're getting to know somebody,
Yeah.
to hear their voice, hear their tone, and really get to know them in that way. But he's like, he prefers WhatsApp. And so I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so from then, I was like, he's not the guy for me, because I'm not a person who just wants to WhatsApp you. For me, WhatsApp is supposed to be like just minimal when you're getting to know someone, but the real getting to know is talking and spending time in person. I'm like, that's problematic to me, but
Exactly.
to each his own.
No, but you're right though, because how much really comes across in a text? It's in your voice that I can hear the tone in which you're using. There are many ways you can say I love you to someone, but to hear it, you understand it better than seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, so text doesn't really put everything across properly. You need to speak.
Yeah.
Basic for me. I mean, come on now.
Very basic. So have you been doing one-on-one coaching sessions with people? Are you doing seminars? Like, how are you doing this now?
So yes, I do one-on-one coaching sessions. I'm actually working on a few things now, especially now that I have the foundation, the Dela Wellness Foundation as well. That's all about building healthy relationships and educating the youth so that they don't fall into some of these things that some of us have fallen into, you know. So I've been working so hard behind the scenes to kind of build that and, you know, really sort of put myself out there. But yeah, one-on-one coaching happens. I speak to people all the time, and, you know, I'm just really just sort of putting myself out there and and trying to do some collaborations with people. So my foundation is actually based in the States, so I'm building some partnerships over there too, as well as in Ghana. Yeah,
that's good. So Dela Wellness Foundation.
Yes.
Okay, people can go there and get more information. Reach out to you.
Absolutely.
If they want to book a session with you as well.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a woman who might be thinking about getting married to someone? She's having some apprehension, or even a guy. What are the things that you would tell them to think about before they actually make the leap?
First of all, I think you'd need to focus on what is making you feel apprehensive. Because if you're apprehensive, it has to be for the right reason. Is it because you think that you're making a mistake? If you think you're making a mistake, you have to be honest with yourself. And I find that a lot of the time we don't want to be honest with ourselves because of outside pressures and what that might look like, especially in the African community where we have a lot of pressure to get married. And especially if they feel like we're with someone, there is that constant pressure. But he likes you, but why don't you do it? Well, no, like when are you going to have kids? And so we have all of that. And so sometimes it makes it very difficult for us to be honest about our true feelings and what we really, really want. So I'd say, really look at what you're apprehensive about and kind of go from there. Do not rush into something that you may look like you're ready for, but you're not really ready for. If you need some more life experience, go and get your life experience. The right person will wait for you. The right person will understand, you know. And so I don't think you should ever rush a decision like marriage or anything like that. And I also think there are different ways to do relationships, but hey, that's a whole other thing.
Different ways to do relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are those ways?
Sometimes people, it may not be a marriage. It may not be a legal marriage. You may want to do a traditional marriage. You may want to just have a life partner. You may want to just build your life with one person, and that's fine. You know, there are polygamous relationships. There are relationships where people don't even live together. And I just think that if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. That's fine. Forget about it. But if it works for you, there are people that are in relationships that don't live together, and it works for them.
Yeah, that's
fine.
I actually saw, what's her name? Shirley Ralph, the actress. She's been married over 20 years.
I saw that.
And her and her husband do not live together. And she talks about how wonderful their marriage is. You know, I think they have 2 or 3 kids. I can't remember. But she's like, they have a successful marriage. It works for them. He has a position that he didn't want to leave where he was living. She works in Hollywood. She wasn't willing to leave Hollywood. So they are living in different places, and they get together when they get together, and then they go back to doing their work and living where they live. And it works for them. And I was like, wow, I mean, I've heard about these kinds of relationships, but hers is the most public that I've seen of something like that.
There is absolutely nothing wrong. If it works for you and it keeps you in your marriage, why is it wrong? What constitutes it to be wrong? Because we're not used to hearing about that. Honestly, relationships are down to the individuals within it. And I think sometimes we take on board other people's opinions too much, and that affects us. And that's what puts us in a space where we're now not happy in our relationship, because we feel like we have to be in this confined thing where this is how the relationship has to work. It doesn't. It's what works for you. It's, you know, I did a video with someone recently, and he was talking about some of the things that he liked. You know, he was talking about his love language was acts of service. And he was like, yeah, when he comes back from work, he wants his partner to serve him. And I said, some people might find that triggering. And he's like, what does it matter? What does it matter? I'm not in a relationship with him. I'm in a relationship with this person. How does that person feel? If the person's happy and wants to also serve, what's it anybody else's business? If he wants his partner to be in the kitchen and cook, run him a bath when he comes back and all these things, it's their relationship. They're both happy. Who are you to interfere and say, this is the wrong thing to do, you're abusing her or whatever? It's not for you to say. They're both happy. Allow them to be. And sometimes we just allow outside forces to just change our relationship, and it's wrong.
Outside forces have a huge role when it comes to some of the decisions people are making in their relationships. And I'm not saying it's in a good way or a bad way, but sometimes people allow the outside to dictate so much that they're not even making a decision as a couple anymore.
Yes, and that is a huge problem. The relationship is about the two of you. You have left your family home and you are with this person. So do what works for the both of you. It's not about what other people's opinions are about. And I often find that sometimes people project when it comes to giving their opinion on your relationship. Usually it's because of what they feel or whatever traumas that they have that they're actually placing onto you, and it's not a non-biased viewpoint. And then that is what your downfall is. It wasn't even about, because you're happy. Say me and my partner, we're together and we function this way. Then someone comes in and says, I think he's asking you too much of you. And they're putting their view. And then all of a sudden it plants a seed in my head to say, maybe he is. That person should not have been able to speak into the relationship. That's why when you're in a relationship, there's some things that should never, ever come out. That should never be told to another person, because it's between the two of you. And that person that's speaking into the relationship is not being objective. They don't understand, you know?
You know, that's an issue we have really, a really big problem with especially in African society. In Ghana, I'll speak about Ghana, when it comes to outside forces. Because I think about when I hear, there was a guy who was telling me that, you know, he found someone, he really loved her, but then her mother was saying that she shouldn't marry him. She had her opinions about him. And he was like, why is it what she's saying is so important? Because we have this thing with each other. We're working on this and this. And she was like, well, my mother said this and this and this. And she took it as bond. And then they ended up splitting. She ended up moving on, having someone else, but then she wasn't happy with that someone else. Her mind's always thinking about the other guy. And that's an example of, you know, when you allow someone else's opinion.
I think there are certain people that you can allow to have an opinion, but ultimately decisions are down to you, you know? So sometimes our parents may have some knowledge that we are not privy to yet. And that's fine to give your opinion, but you can't force your opinion on someone. Sometimes there are things that we have to go through in order to grow. And so you can't say, like, I can never save my daughter from every single thing. There are some things she just has to go through in order to be able to get to where she needs to go. No matter how much I tell her, or no matter how much she reads in a book, unless she experiences it, she can't learn from it. And so that's what we have to do. You can give your opinion, but let the person make the decision for themselves. If you then want to come back to me, I'm open to hearing, okay, what happened, and giving you some advice from there. But I cannot force my opinion on you. Because it's wrong.
You know, I really admire the way that you've been able to take something that, you know, has been a painful experience and turned it into something where you are able to impart knowledge for other people, as well as get people really thinking about relationships, because relationships really are the most important thing in our lives. Whether it's with our friends and family, and then with the partner you decide to choose for life, because that's the person you're going to be with every day.
And it changes. Picking the right person is so important. It can literally change the whole trajectory of your life. you have to have the right person to build with. It makes a huge difference to who you become.
Do you feel like you lost out on, because 18 years of marriage is a long time. Do you feel like you lost out on anything in life because you spent that time with the wrong person?
I definitely do feel, I definitely mourn a loss for sure. But I'm also grateful for some of the lessons that I learned along the way. I mean, 18 years was, I mean, I'd prefer it to have been a shorter time, but I've grown so much. Now I know what I want out of a relationship. There are certain things that I'm unshakable on because I know what I'm looking for now. And if I hadn't have had that experience, I wouldn't have known. So I could have ended up in the same situation with a different person, you know, but that's not going to happen now because my experience has taught me some things. So yes, although I wouldn't like to go through that, it was almost necessary for me to go through that to become who I am today.
You mentioned that your foundation is registered in the US. Do you have plans to eventually leave Ghana and go to the US? Like, what are your intentions there?
So I don't have plans to leave. Ghana is definitely my home, but I want to build this global foundation where I am helping people across the borders. I don't want to focus on just Ghana because it's an issue that stems worldwide, and so everybody needs help. So the foundation is set up there, so that it makes sense for me to make that also a base. But that is not, I have no plans to leave Ghana at all. It's just a place I'm exploring right now.
Okay.
Yeah, doing some partnerships there.
Now, there's a lot of people, because I have a lot of interactions with people from the diaspora, and I know you do too. And there's a lot of people who come to Ghana and they're like, I'm coming to find my Black king. I'm coming to find my Black queen, my African king. Like, they're coming with this whole, you know, romanticized idea of coming back to Africa and then finding, you know, their perfect match. What advice do you have for people coming to Ghana or any African country, and they've come from the UK, America, wherever, and they want to start dating here because they have to navigate a different, you know, society? What is some of the advice that you would give them when they jump in?
I think you have to take out that whole romanticizing thing because it's not real. It's different coming here on holiday and finding someone that you connect with and having a great time together. But really joining yourself to that person is a different thing. Are you ready to culturally be someone's wife like that? Because a lot of African men like things a particular way. Are you willing to let go of some of your ways from the States or from the UK or whatever to adapt to this man? If he says he wants fufu, are you ready to pound the fufu? It's the reality, you know? Are you ready for that? When he says, when he gets home, he wants his food ready. Are you ready to hear that from him? Can you handle those things? Can you handle what it takes to be an African man's wife? That's the real question, because it's easy to idolize and say, oh, they have great bodies and that's all superficial stuff. But let's get down to the reality of what it is, because let's be honest, we've heard of people who've come here, got married, and they hate it. Because they weren't expecting to have these shocks along the way as to what an African man actually wants. Can you handle that? Some African men, and I'm not saying all, they don't communicate that well. Let's be honest. And I'm sorry that I'm just being truthful here. They don't communicate. Are you okay with that? If you want to talk about intimacy and he doesn't want to talk about intimacy with you, are you okay with that? There are some realities that you have to, so you're going to have to compromise on some stuff. And that's not even just going to Africa, that's going into any culture. There are some things that you're going to have to compromise. Are you willing to do that? So you can have all your ideals on a paper, but the reality is going to be very, very different. And so I think you need to experience what the Ghana culture is first before you jump into saying, I found a man.
There's a lot who do.
I know. And for some people, hey, respect to them. They've been able to make it work. And that's amazing. That is absolutely great. But for some people, it has been hell for them and they've had to run away. And that's just the truth of it. So really look at it before you do it. Like, understand what the culture is and what it requires of you to be a wife. And, you know, you go do a traditional marriage. Do you know that he can get a second wife? Are you going to be okay with that? He may have another family somewhere. Are you all right with that?
And those are conversations that need to be had, because not all of them will be having a second wife and a third wife, but some of them will want that. So it's important to ask those questions. Because one of the things I learned, there was a guy I dated a long time ago who, when I had found out something, and he was like, but you never asked that question.
You see.
He's like, you never asked that question.
Yeah.
So for him, it was, if I didn't ask, there was no need for him to say. So it's always important that if there's something you want to know, you actually ask the direct question.
Exactly. Don't assume that the person has offered up all the information. So because I mean, it's very normal to have a second wife here. So you might be the second wife and you might not know until you've already got all your feelings for this person. And then he tells you, oh, you're second wife. Now, how do you deal with that? So it's important to ask, what does the person want? What do you need? What do you want? You know, I mean, side chicks is a thing here too.
It is a big thing here.
It is a thing.
It's like, it's very problematic for some people, and for some people they don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you then navigate that? You've found a man. You might be the side chick, or you might be married and your partner is going to have a side chick. And to some people, and so what? They'll tell you if you approach him, he'll tell you, and so what? We're dead straight, and so what? Like, understand the culture, because you're making a fuss about, oh, I'm going to divorce you. You just what I mean? Like, understand the culture that you're walking into. Don't come with that Western mentality where you think, oh, he can't take another woman, he can't do this, he can't do that. Understand what it is. I'm not saying that every Ghanaian man is like that. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it does exist here. So just be prepared. Prevention is better than cure. So just understand what you're walking into and make sure you ask the right questions before you fully commit to that relationship. Otherwise, you're going to get your heart broken.
It's very important to ask the right questions. And one of the things, when you brought up polygamy, I had a conversation with somebody about, and I was like, it's not for me. I know I don't want to be in a polygamous marriage or relationship, but I know that there are people who do it, and that's for them. And I always say to guys, if that's what you want, you should tell the woman, hey, I want to be in a polygamous marriage. Are you prepared to be wife number 1 or 2 or whatever? Because if you don't have those conversations, you do end up getting your heart broken.
Yes.
You know, I met a man in Kolegono some years ago, and he had told me he had 5 wives. And I was really fascinated to know how that came to be. So I asked him, I was like, I genuinely want to know. And he said, he found the woman that he started dating that became the first wife. And he told her from the beginning, he said, hey, he grew up in a polygamous family, so he wants the same thing.
Yeah.
Is she ready for that? And she said she was fine with it. So he married her. And then when it came for him finding the second wife, she helped him with finding the second one. So it's like, are you prepared for something like that if that's what that person wants? And like again, you said again, it's not everyone that's doing this, but there are people who do, and it does exist. And typically the ones who do the polygamous marriages won't do the white wedding. They won't do the legal wedding.
Yeah, because you can't.
Because you can't in Ghana legally have multiple wives under the white wedding system.
Exactly.
They can do it under the old traditional or Muslim system.
Yeah. And there are different ways to do polygamous relationships as well. And I think people don't understand how that works. It's more about building. It's not just about having multiple women. You know, some people think that that's what it's about. It's not about that. It's about building like a family, you know. I mean, why wouldn't you do a polygamous relationship? I'm just curious.
Why wouldn't I? Because I want my man for myself. I want his time for myself. And, you know, if we had kids, I would want it to be a nuclear family. Emotionally, I can't handle it to know that he is going to attach himself to another person. It would bother me. So that's why I wouldn't want something like that. I've never felt comfortable with knowing that he's with someone else. He could be sleeping with someone else, and intimacy as well, like the emotional sharing of intimate things. And it's not something that I want to share. I would rather it be with just me and him.
That's understandable. Everything for different people, different things, you know. But what if you found this ideal man and he was perfect in every way, but he was polygamous? I'm here interviewing you now.
I know, right?
But he was just polygamous, but he was perfect on every level for you.
No. I couldn't.
You wouldn't. So the reason I'm asking you that is because sometimes I feel like we can shut ourselves off to things because we're not willing to look at things that we're not normally familiar with. And that's why I was saying there's different ways to do relationships. So maybe someone will approach you and say, I love you, I want to marry you, but I don't want to live with you. Would you do that?
I've not thought about that before. That's different than polygamy.
No, it's different from polygamy. Yes,
Yeah.
it's different.
The
But I'm just
polygamy I
saying there
couldn't.
are different ways to do relationships. Like, are you open to seeing what that is like? Maybe that would open up a different category of men, because sometimes we're so focused on it has to be like this that we don't look at the other options that are around.
I mean, I've done long distance relationships so many times before
And that's
that
some
it
people
would be
would never do a long distance
And I've
relationship.
done long distance relationships so many times in my life. My mom made jokes about it's like her daughters are serial long distance relationship people.
Yeah, because long distance relationships also come with their challenges. You know?
Yeah.
Because they're hard to keep
They
up.
are very hard, very hard.
Yeah.
Communication is so important with that.
Exactly. And if you don't have a person that's very open when it comes to communication, how does that work?
Yeah. Great questions. Great questions. But I still know that I couldn't do the polygamy. Yeah, even if a guy came and he was like perfect package, all that stuff, I know I couldn't do it because I know myself and I know how my heart is and my emotions are, and I would just be willingly putting myself in a situation where I would be feeling the hurt knowing that he's going to be with someone else, the next day or whatever. I couldn't put myself in that situation.
But a lot of African families, they are polygamous though.
Oh, I know there's quite a few that are. There's quite a few that are. There's quite a few that are not too.
Yeah, of course. It's what works for you. You know, there's no one box. It is that I want people to understand is that there's not one correct way to do a relationship. It's how it works for the two of you ultimately.
And what about you? Would you do a polygamous relationship?
I would actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've come to after your experiences, or have you always thought about that?
No, I've not. I don't know. Recently, I've just been having a lot of conversations with people, and it's kind of come up as a topic. And the more I've thought about it, I'm like, okay, if there's this perfect person, but they're polygamous, am I going to turn it down because of this one thing, or am I going to enjoy the time? And I just thought I would enjoy the time. Like, you can't always let what society thinks the right way to do relationships affect you. If that person is making me happy now, then it is what it is. But like I said, there's different ways to do polygamy. So it would just depend on what that structure would look like. You know, some people want everyone to live under one roof. Some people are happy with people being in different places. So it just depends what that would look like. But I would be open to it.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean,
I was like, I'm learning some stuff today.
Yeah, I'm learning stuff from you today. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not necessarily been about society, but it's been about, like I said, my heart and how I feel. I would just be setting myself up for.
But what if he makes you feel like you are the only one?
But I know I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine.
Yeah. I'm sure the interesting thing though is, the whole concept of polygamy, a lot of Western society has this obsession of it being like, yes, I'm a man and I get to have sex with 5 different women or whatever, when it really was a system, from my understanding, where it was like, in the olden days, people had like farms and stuff, and they wanted to have multiple, they're building an empire kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they have, a woman can only be pregnant for 9 months. And it's like, you have others who can also be bearing children. And then you're having these multiple units that are all helping to support
That's the true
building
essence.
this farm.
That's the true essence of polygamy.
Yeah.
But now it's become in such a way that the polygamy has become an umbrella of all these different ways of doing things, you know, and it really depends on how you want to model it, you know?
Interesting. So, being in the space that you're in now, have you come across meeting other people who are into the coaching in relationships? Because in Ghana, it's not something people really are
not
talking about.
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
not. Just because I think for Ghana, it is a difficult space to be in, because you get judged for a lot of things, you know, and people definitely. I think what people have to understand is that because I'm talking about relationships, doesn't mean that I'm perfect. And so people are scared of being in that space and making a mistake, and that be their downfall. But really, it's a journey where we're all learning, right? So I might put out a video and say something, and then someone will be like, but you did this, or your marriage didn't work, but you're talking about this. And so it's a scary space for people to be in. And so I understand. And with Ghana, I feel like a lot of people are very private about their relationships too.
They are.
So they don't often talk about it. So it's not a space that everyone can naturally go into. But for me, I don't care. I'll come and say it.
But yeah, people are very private. It's like people will be dating, you don't even know they're dating.
Yes.
Like I literally have been invited to people's weddings and I didn't even know they were dating. I'll be like, what? You were, huh?
Yeah.
You're getting married?
Yes.
And you're just like, when did you start dating this person?
Exactly.
Didn't even know they existed.
Right, exactly. People keep their relationships very hush-hush. I don't know why, but they do.
And I don't know how they do it for so long either sometimes.
I can't. I'm just like, you know.
Like I can understand the first little while, maybe the first couple of months, you're getting to know them, you know, you're not really saying anything.
Yeah.
But if you're with somebody for like a year, 2 years, how is it that there's so many people who don't know?
I don't know. I guess some people just like it like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they should be putting it on social media, but when you're friends with somebody, like I literally have gone out with people, hanging out and stuff, and then like a month later, they're like, "Oh, I'm getting married in 2 weeks," and you're like, "What?
That's
really?
Crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, they're very secretive.
I know.
Maybe some Ghanaians watching can put it in the comments and tell us, why people are very secretive about their relationships.
Maybe they're scared that their partner will get snatched.
Really? Why would they get snatched if they're known that they're with somebody? Tell us.
You're going to get me in trouble on camera. I think it's a similar thing along the lines of why people don't tell you when they're traveling. I think it's along that kind of line. So they just don't want anything bad to happen. So they just keep it private and then let's get married and then you can know about it. So I think it's similar to that.
They don't want to jinx it, as some people will say. They don't want to put a bad energy or a bad omen or anything. If somebody who's watching you doesn't like it. Yeah, I get you. Yeah. Well, this has been a really interesting conversation today. It went in a different direction that I didn't expect.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What were you expecting?
No, I didn't expect us to start talking about the different types of relationships, talking about the polygamy and, you know, but it's all very interesting conversation that I think needs to be had, especially when you gave the advice about what people should look out for when they're coming here for relationships, because a lot of people are doing it. The diaspora is coming and they're looking for love. So you gave really solid advice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you did. Tell us about your book again before we wrap up so that people can grab a copy.
Yeah, so the book is called 18 Years, From I Do to What Did I Do? And it very much talks about my experiences from getting married to being in the marriage and some of the issues that came up. And it also gives a long advice along the way as well. So I point out some of the things that I didn't really realize until later on. So to also help other people so that they don't fall into some of the things that I fell into. So it is an advice-based book, but it uses my life as a guide for some of that.
And it's available on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. I have some hard copies here in Ghana too. There are different ways to get it. I have an audio version too, but if you want the audio version, you have to message me directly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dela. I appreciate you.
No problem. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. This has been a really good conversation. Really good, really important. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a really, really engaging conversation. I loved it. I really did. I learned some things today. And she had me thinking about myself too, like really thinking like, because I'm out here single and dating, looking for somebody. So looking for love. I'm looking for a husband.
There
I put
you
it out
go.
there. I am looking for a husband.
Be bold.
I am looking for a husband.
Thank you. Be bold. Why do we shy away from these things as to what we want?
I am looking
because
for a husband.
sometimes people don't know. Someone might not even know you're single and think that you're in a relationship, and so they bypass you. I want a relationship.
I do.
Speak those things out into the world because that's what you want.
That is
Say
what
you want. Say what you want. Be confident and be bold in it. I want this, this, and this. Bring it to me. One of the things, I'm sorry, I know you just...
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the things that I did, so I'd had a couple of relationships after my marriage and they never worked. And then I got to the point where I was so fed up that I wrote a list. I'm like, this is what I want. And I wrote it down. And that is what I want.
Good.
And that is what I'm looking for, because
Good.
sometimes you put it down on paper and then it makes sense to you. When someone does come, you can go back to your list that you wrote when you were in the right headspace and say that this is what I want. Now your emotions don't necessarily affect or change what you were looking for, because you've clearly put it on paper and it's stated, this is what I'm looking for. And so you don't need to stray away from those things that you put on paper.
Good advice. I have my list. It's in my head. I'm not saying it right now, but it's in my head. But I am looking for a husband.
There you go. Hey, own it, own it, own it.
Yes.
Why not?
What a way to wrap up this episode. I'm sure the comments are going to be full. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And also go to her page. Her new page is More to Love.
More to Love.
More
yeah.
to Love, where you can learn more about the relationship, advice, and different people should be talking to, also sharing their advice and experiences too. And then you could also go to her original YouTube page, which is More to Dela.
Yes.
So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.